Good afternoon, everybody. We're taking you away from U.S. programming for just a few minutes to bring you a first on CNBC interview with DAMAC's chairman, Hussain Sajwani. It's fantastic to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. So two major acts happening today at the World Economic Forum, President Trump and also Greta. We've had so many conversations in the last few months about the Greta effect when it comes to world leaders and what's happening next. But you're a very dear friend of the president. You've worked with him before in projects in Dubai and elsewhere. My question to you is, how do you think that his comments played? Because he gets a lot of criticism internationally.
See, I know the man reasonably well. I think he's done a good job for America. I think he's done a good job in certain areas like China. In our region, I think it's very high risk region. But I genuinely think he wants to make a deal in the region. My gut feeling is I don't think there'll be a deal this year. I think Iranians are going to take a long time to make a deal. I think they are under pressure. They may want to make a deal. I think if Trump gets elected for a second term, he will make a deal. I think the deal will happen. 50% chance, of course. Depends on the other side.
When you think about what's going to happen next in terms of the peace process, there's been so much hype around the fact that the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is supposedly working on the deal of the century. You're close with the family. Can you give us a little bit of a timeline, do you think, on when we could actually see that?
It's very difficult. If you're referring to the Palestinian-Israeli situation, I think it's a very complicated one, and it has a lot of history, and I am not very optimistic that something like that could happen soon.
Walk me through how you see the events of the last several weeks playing out in the region. As a businessman, obviously, working in the Middle East across several countries, instability is not something you're unfamiliar with. But the president's actions when it came to taking out the Quds Force commander, Qasem Soleimani, did he make the right choice? Do you think he made the region safer?
See, I am not a politician. I don't understand politics. But what I hear publicly, Trump says he wants to make a deal. I think, in my view, most of the people in the region are tired of war. I hope there is a peace comes in. I think there is a good chance of peace happening, a deal happening in the second term of Trump if he gets elected. But yes, we are living in the region at a very, very unstable region, unfortunately, and you don't know what tomorrow will bring.
But you'd work with the president again?
We have a deal with his organization where they have developed for us 2 golf courses, and we're happy with the relation we have from the commercial point of view.
But would you do another deal in future?
He announced publicly that he will not be able to do any deal outside America. So
puts the brakes on it, at least for now.
At least for now.
Walk me through what happens next with regards to the Dubai property market, because you've talked about your deep concerns about what's been happening in the UAE of late. Where are we today?
See, Dubai fundamentally is very strong. We have very good political system, very stable, very good infrastructure, currency pegged to the dollar. I don't see fundamentally we have any issue. I think we have a little bit gone above the board on the supply. At one end, there is an opportunity to buy. The fact last year, with more than 20,000 units been sold, it gives you that there is a demand. Okay, I think if we curb the supply, and I think this is happening, government has taken certain action. They formed certain committees. I think another 2 years, this year, next year, definitely we are not going to be easy at the property market. But I hope in 22 or 23 we start, market stabilize and get better.
Are we in a disaster now? Are we going to see a disaster before we start to get better?
I think we are at the bottom. I don't see we're going to go further from here. It just needs time to absorb the supply, which is going to be coming in the coming 2 years. There's a lot of supply coming in 20 and 21.
So walk me through your thoughts on this, because obviously there's been a great deal of social media hype surrounding our panel on Thursday here at the World Economic Forum. Obviously a lot of concern, I think, coming from a lot of different parties within Lebanon about the fact that Gibran Fasil will be joining us. Why do you think it's so important that we sit down with this man, even though he is part of a caretaker government?
I don't know the man. I have no view on his past or his personality. I don't know. I mean, I'm attending the panel on the view of to say, what about the region?
Yeah.
And my views are the region said, unfortunately, the democracy is not working.
Yeah.
It's not working in Lebanon. It's not working in Iraq. It's having its challenges in country like Algeria, it has challenges, even in Kuwait. So democracy have challenges, different challenges. No question, dictatorship hasn't worked. If it's Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi or whoever, no question, the poverty is also contributing a lot to the region. Unemployment, no jobs. On the other end, if you look at the region historically after the First World War, gone through tremendous, conflicts from between British and France, dividing the region, creating new countries. Then the First War of 1948, which resulted in falling few kingdoms like Iraqi kingdom, Egypt's kingdom disappeared, and the military came to the power. Then we have a Second War of 67, when again a couple of more kingdoms disappeared, like Libya was a kingdom. Again, more military. The military were unhappy with those failures of their in front of State of Israel. We brought new dictators, new military regimes.
The 20th century was tough for this region, the Middle East. But I would argue, they've had 60 years to get this right in Lebanon as a democracy, as you've said. What's so important about what happens next there? Because when we talk about the collapse of the Lebanese economy, obviously that has major implications for business. You have business in Lebanon. What's your deepest concern?
I mean, if you look at Lebanon's case, it's a sophisticated country, very educated people, highly educated people, a small country, so doesn't have the problems of, like I would say, a country like Egypt has 100 million population. But the interference of the regional and the global powers in those countries is enormous. And unfortunately, sometimes democracy also brings challenges that sometimes the foreign powers interfere through by supporting certain political parties, and the fight become a proxy fight on those lands.
Do you think that they're going to be able to move forward on a government that will be accepted by the street? Because that's the only way that they're going to really avoid a default. I mean, essentially, they've said that that's not, unless the external powers that are supporting them via the Cedar Conference donors or the United States, they've said that it has to be a government that meets with their democratic principles. And that just doesn't seem to be working at this point.
I hate to tell you, but when you read history, revolutions and going to the streets, from the French Revolution to the Marxism in Russia, and then have not brought the best governments to the interest of the people. Ultimately, unfortunately, somebody rides on those waves and comes to the power, and he does worse job. And is those street demonstrations and, are they going to bring better results? I'm not saying they shouldn't go. People have the right to go and demonstrate and give their views. But I am not hopeful that they're going to bring better solution than what we have today. It's unfortunate. When I read history, I don't see any countries gone to better after those demonstrations or revolutions.
We're definitely going to have a lot to say in our half hour, 45 minutes together on Thursday, a must-watch panel here at the World Economic Forum. Hussain Sajwani, thank you so much for joining us on CNBC. We'll have to leave it there.
Thank you.